Many business owners hear that word strategy or strategic planning. I know this was true for me, and it's like it feels stuffy or sophisticated, or it's hard to relate to. But why do you think business people either don't get it or don't do strategic planning?
Strategic planning, when you hear it, it sounds like it's an academic exercise. It sounds like something you would learn at a university. And when I first got started in business, I hated it. I didn't want to do strategic planning. Why spend all this time planning when I can be doing, right? And I had one of those moments over a decade ago where I experienced it the way it was supposed to be. And I realized it wasn't that mountaintop experience, that navel gazing that Dave likes to say, where you're just off kind of contemplating the universe. But I think it starts with, most people don't know what it feels like when you do it right. Most people don't know what it'll do for their business when you do it right.
What was that 10 years ago? Like, what was that experience for you?
I had done some strategic planning before then, or done some planning sessions before then. And they were, honestly, they felt like the kind of experience where we were doing business. Okay, let's stop. Let's have this conversation that feels like it doesn't relate to anything else we're doing. And then we go back to business as usual. And it felt like a waste of a day, and we were just so busy, trying to keep the lights on, like just trying to make payroll, that stopping and taking a day to waste time on a discussion that we're not going to use just felt ridiculous.
It's funny how that's pretty common, where we feel like we're supposed to be taking a day to do an offsite, so we do it. But then we don't do anything with what we talked about, and so we don't really respect it. But there's kind of this tension of, but we're supposed to do it. It's almost like we check the box, but then nothing happens. And so it gets a bad rap.
Yeah. And if you actually do it that way, I would just say, stop doing it. That's not how it's supposed to be done. When I experienced strategic planning done right, here's what it felt like. I realized in that moment that we were spending, when you do strategic planning the right way, it's maybe 5 days a year, 6 days a year that you spend either in annual planning or quarterly planning. And I realized that done right, those 5 days can literally impact decisions that are made every other business day of the year, right? There's about 250 business days in a year. And if we can spend 5 days, which is 2% of that, and have conversations that impact the other 245, that was like, oh.
Yeah.
And if it's just this, we're going to go off and talk about something and then get back to business as usual, it's not that. It's just a waste. It's disconnected. Mm-hmm. But when you have the right kind of planning time, where you decide where you want to go, how you're going to get there, and then you actually bring it back into your business and it impacts your daily decisions, that can change everything, right? So when I experienced that moment, it just changes my whole perspective on it. And from there, that's when I really started to deep dive and say, okay, I've got to figure this thing out. I've got to get this right.
It really resonates with my first experience of when I had that light bulb moment around strategic planning. I was similar. It felt very academic. I didn't understand the benefit of the offsite thing because I had been to similar experiences where it just felt like a waste of time. But then we worked with a professional who did exactly what you're talking about, where he helped us make some really big, important decisions that effectively, it's almost like those big decisions automatically made 1,000 other decisions and freed up all this time in the trenches that later that year we're executing as an extension of big decisions we made as a team versus just one ankle biter thing at a time or putting out one fire at a time. Many business owners say, I feel like a firefighter. I'm just always putting out fires. And that first year after we did it the way that was like the right way, we suddenly had a whole lot less fires to put out. It felt like we were in charge again. It felt like we were proactively happening to the business. And it can really change the entire trajectory of not just how the team feels, but your traction and success in your organization.
That's right. That's right. And I think you're spot on. It really is the difference between you happening to your business or your business happening to you, right? If you show up at work and your time is spent just chasing the fires of the day that are, blaring in your ear loud, the business is just happening to you. But if you can get above your business and figure out where you want it to go and be intentional and focused about taking your team there, you're happening to your business. And that's what we all want to be doing, right? So when I really connected those dots, that if that's what it takes to get our business to a place it wouldn't be otherwise, I was all in. I went from being a detractor to being an advocate to being I read every book I could. I went into the deep waters of strategic planning and have been doing it ever since. Yeah. And here at Ramsey, we've been doing it a ton, lots of different sessions, lots of different businesses.
I would argue that you are genuinely at the master stage of this thing. You've done it so much. You've put in the reps. You've been in the room at Ramsey and other places where you really can see the value, and you've sold it internally at Ramsey. People that were more the late adopters in our leadership team around strategic planning, because you got to realize, like early on, we were just getting stuff done. We're shooting things and killing them and dragging them home, and it was just, we covered a multitude of sins in business by just selling more and moving faster, and we would run harder, and to some extent that worked, and we didn't realize how inefficient we were operating. And you really were a big change agent in helping a lot of our leadership team, including myself and Dave, kind of wake up to what was possible if we started to work smarter. And not that we were going to work less hard, but that we were working really hard now in the right direction. And I'm curious, when you're talking to business leaders, how do you sell them on the value of doing this the right way? What's really in it for them?
Yeah, it's a great question. The thing is, if you've got a great team, if you've got a great product, a great brand, great marketing, your business can be very successful without strategic planning. It is not one of those things that you have to do to be viable or to be a good business. And for a long time, we had a great brand, great product, great team, and we were still, by a lot of measures, very successful. But when it comes to selling it, really, when I talk to business owners, I just say, what do you want your business to be that it's not today, right? What do you want your business to become that's not just going to happen on its own? Almost everybody I've spoken to has some form of answer to that question. And if your business is happening to you, it's almost impossible to create an environment where your business can grow to a place that doesn't just happen, right? Your team and you are able to take the business to a place it wouldn't go otherwise, to a place where your competitors can't go, to a place that you may not even have thought was possible. When you start thinking about your business in those terms, you start realizing that's why you have to get above the business. So I really just talk to business owners in their terms. What do you want for your business? What do you want for you? And what's in the way of you getting there? And in that discussion, it almost always comes out, right? And usually the solutions to those kind of problems don't just solve themselves. They don't just get solved in the trenches. They get solved by a group of people that are very careful and very intentional about solving that problem so that we can advance the business the right way.